I think my microphone picked that all up. Welcome everyone to another Moisky Live. Sorry that we're a couple minutes late, 1 minute late, but I was a bit behind. And yeah, I didn't get as much done as I would have liked today, but given the choice between a 6-minute video or a 1 hour, 1.5 hour stream, ranting and raving about abuse of copyright, which a conclusion has been reached. I should let you all know that the copyright on the video has been removed. I have privated that particular video because I've re-uploaded it without those images, and I'm then going to blur out emails on the stream we did with Cog because his name's on it, and I don't think it fair that they exist there. I'm going to be polite and gentlemanly as I always am, I believe, or arrogant as others have recently determined.
What the fuck? Like,
Yeah.
it's hard to give an apathetic person an arrogant tagline, but all right.
Trups and I speak a fair amount, and he knows me from away from YouTube. I don't think I qualify, but it's possible I might be. I don't know. Joining me for this political recap is the lovely Trups LP. Say hello, Trups LP.
Hello, Trups LP.
How is Trups LP?
Trups LP is all right now that I'm sitting here with some Crown Royal. And,
Crown Royal. I'm very jealous.
I love Crown. It's such a like
I have water.
strong, sweet whiskey.
It's interesting for an apple one because the percentage is not 40, is it?
Just regular.
Oh,
This
actually,
was just regular.
right, because the apple whiskey, funny about that, interesting fact I find, a whiskey is determined to be 40% or more and has to be aged for 4 years. Crown Royal is not 40% when it's apple.
You know, it's also kind of interesting because I don't remember if I told this story or not, but when I was in frat in college, there was a gentleman who was quite inebriated.
Oh.
Who was explaining to me the difference between Kentucky bourbon
Oh,
and Tennessee whiskey.
Sal Mash argument, isn't it?
Yes, and
Yeah.
I was so under the influence of things that I was not. I did not give a fuck, but he was talking as if he was explaining the meaning of the world.
I have a strange feeling, Trups. I have a very strange feeling.
Yeah.
I have a strange feeling that was me. We've had this discussion before, I swear. It's either you or Dally.
That sounds like a Dally thing to do.
Yeah, it does. It does. Doesn't matter. I don't care for bourbon that much, even though I have a fair amount of it. Hello, lovely chat. Some of you undoubtedly were on Twitch earlier when I was playing my highly exciting Barents Sea fishing game. Hello, Patriarch of the Sith, Karma, Eden, Lord Crocker Squirrel, Karina, Great Sky Troll, Anti-Drummer. Didn't see you on my main channel earlier. Squizzy, how you doing? And have we left yet? Hope you're all having a nice Friday. We do have a few things we want to touch on. I don't have much in the way of material prepared, so I'm afraid you're going to have to tolerate the thumbnail to the stream being the Joker. Hopefully, someone won't tell me they own the copyright to it. Hello, Voight and Marilyn Hands, because last thing I can be bothered with right now is another bloody copyright claim. And yes, Eden, apple whiskey does exist. I would recommend trying Applejack first. Jack Daniels in the Christmas time make an apple version. It's like 15%. It's very mild. It tastes like an Alco Pop, to be honest. You know, apple sours, but not as sour. And there is also Crown Royal. I've been meaning to get a bottle of Crown Royal for a while. Actually, do you know the person who I sent you the message of recently? Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
They donated to me explicitly to buy a bottle. I still haven't done it. I've been meaning to for ages. I really want to buy a bottle.
Well, if you don't buy it, I'm going to end up buying it for you and have it shipped to goddamn England.
You can't ship alcohol to me. But they do sell it in the corner.
Buy it there.
Yeah, you can. They do sell a bottle around the corner. I think it's like 40 quid or something. They've only got the one bottle, and I've been wanting to get it for a while. I just keep forgetting. I'll get to it. It's fine. Okay, so where should we start today? Shall I start with something British?
Sure, let's start British.
All right, I'm not going to talk about Brexit yet. I'll get to that later. I want to talk about Carl Beach. I've done videos on this guy a few times. Carl Beach, I will put a picture of. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll change the picture so it's one of him. Carl Beach, basically, he made a bunch of lies up about institutional child abuse from politicians, army officials. Crunchy Karma donates $5. Smoked salmon vodka. That was for you.
I've never had that. That sounds slightly disgusting, but I
Sounds
will take your word for it.
sounds wrong. Hello, Brian
Unless
Wilson.
smoked salmon is a brand.
Hello, Cyrene as well. And Sean M. I know Applejack doesn't taste like apple, but it's a starting place for Eden anyway. So Carl Beach, he made a bunch of false allegations. Obviously, at the time, he was anonymous. These allegations led to an inquiry. Oh, it was Operation Midland, I believe. And the allegations, were against politicians like Harvey Procter, army officials, former prime ministers, some of whom are dead. £2 million was spent on this in one of the biggest cases of perverting the course of justice. How much of a narcissist do you have to be to constantly beg the attention to that level and lie so much, hello, take out Joe, that you would lie and cost the taxpayer and the Met, £2 million, and have a whole bunch of people arrested? Because let's face it, when people are accused of a sexual offence, for the most part, they are put on blast when they're accused, aren't they? They're not given the right to anonymity.
Unfortunately.
I firmly, and I've always believed in this, it should be absolute anonymity for all involved until the case is concluded. I mean, if the guy's found innocent, then until a conviction is found against the other person. If they are guilty and it's not a case of found not proven, because that one's tricky.
Yeah.
That's a murky area. But still,
Which is actually the exact opposite of how you get so many Florida man stories, because Florida has the right to publish arrests, not convictions.
oh dear.
So, man arrested for, wrestling with a crocodile,
Yeah.
okay, that's an arrest, not a conviction.
Yeah, that's a bit. Yeah, Florida man is funny. I love.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. Carl Beach was jailed for. Guess how many years he got? Because this is quite impressive.
What was his crime again?
Perverting the course of justice. False allegations. He made so many. He cost 2.5. The total was 2.5 million that was spent investigating his claims.
Probably because you're asking between 1 and 2 years.
No, for the first time ever, the almost correct sentence was given. He got.
Oh shit.
He at the age of 51 got 18 years, which is actually that's impressive, right? In 2016, there was a report published by Lord Henriques, which criticised the Met because because of how they went about this. The problem with this whole thing, so Lord Bramwell, Harvey Procter, Lord Britton, all being deemed with the investigations against them unlawful, was that a number of current year politicians absolutely pounced on this. Hello, Stuart. Hope you're well. And Prospero, you're not late. It's fine. I'm just ill-prepared. The most prominent politician to pounce on this and support Nick at the time, now obviously Carl Beach, because he was given a non-name until he was proven to be a massive gobble-necked liar. I'm just going to move it up a little so you can see the extra chin bit, the jowl.
Oh, I thought you were being kind.
I'm not going to be kind to a liar. And
That's fair.
Tom Watson, the deputy leader of the Labour Party, was the person who was leading the calls for all this stuff to come out, all these people to be arrested, basically him to be believed, but with no evidence to support it, which is what Operation Midland, I think it was Operation Midland, Operation Midland confirmed it. This man is an absolute joke, and a number of politicians, some even killed themselves. So people killed themselves over these allegations. This is unacceptable.
As soon as you get into those situations where you'll actually take away from people's lives.
Yeah.
Like if you have a false accusation of you stole something in a store, and you're just wasting taxpayer money.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, fine. But when you make the allegations that could literally ruin a person, I have zero sympathy for you.
I'm with you on that. And Tom Watson, with what he did, he stood up in Parliament and gave, hello Anthony Monaghan, and Magpie Everspirit, hope you're well. He stood up in Parliament and gave a very passionate speech about Nick, not knowing Nick was obviously the fake name to protect Carl Beach. And by doing so, put extra pressure on the police, right? he said the review contained multiple inaccuracies about him, the police, and asked him to encourage hundreds of people that came to him with stories of child abuse to report their stories to the police. Now, I agree with that sentiment. The problem is he was basing it on Carl Beech's bollocks. He wasn't basing it on an actual position of credibility. Had he said this, not from the speech he was giving about protecting Nick and doing more to help Nick, it wouldn't have made him look like a moron. In fact, there are now articles about him because he's been interviewed so many times with people trying to get him to say sorry for what he did. Tom Watson is under enough pressure as it is from his own party trying to knife him in the back because they can't handle a differing opinion. And he's adamant he won't apologise, which I think is kind of pathetic. By the way, where are your trolls in my chat? I don't see your trolls.
Oh, give it a second.
Yeah.
We haven't spoken about Trump yet. Give it a moment.
Do you want to just write Trump, Emperor, whatever, Daddy Trump or something?
Yeah. Hang on.
Crown Apple not available on Amazon. You will find Crown Royal Apple. Oh, hang on, I can help you there actually because I know for a fact where it is. Give me a second. I will find it for you, Eden, and I'll DM it to you.
Yeah. Everyone get drunk with us. It's Friday. Everyone can get drunk.
I'll DM it to you afterwards because I'm busy. It's fine.
Hi, hippos.
You're
not the usual troll.
Because of what has happened, Priti Patel has ordered another review. This is the third review. She's the current Home Secretary. She has ordered a third review into the Mets investigation to show how they balls this one up. Right? There's also compensation fraud because Beach was given compensation for what happened. He claimed $22,000 from the Criminal Injuries Compensation Authority. I'm not sure how they're going to get that back from him since he's busy being butt-fucked.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. For the MPs that were destroyed, like Harvey Proctor was the most well-known one because he was absolutely annihilated by what happened. And he's still going on, but obviously he's a shell. He's in his 70s, and I'm sure this is the only thing he's got really that, not that gives him relevancy, but kind of keeps him energized because he has no real... Like that case at the time, add that to the cases he went through with the homosexuality cases he had to go through because at the time when he was caught with a guy, it was illegal for him to be intimate with a guy under the age of 21. Which is...
Wait, why?
Yeah, it was the 80s.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah, the 80s were a weird time.
I figured so close to the 60s, that would have been the era of free love.
It was. It just wasn't legal.
Oh, well, all right then. Fair enough.
Yeah, people are very misled about the 60s. Ooh, damn.
Oh, that's fair. People are also misled about the 90s.
Yeah, I know. I like the 90s though.
Same. I showed up.
It was my childhood, you know.
Yeah, I was like, I showed up in the 90s, made it like 10 times better.
That's what I say about the 80s because it was a pretty good decade.
That's fair.
Yeah, it was a good decade. I think I'm done with Carl Beech now. So, shall we move on to something else?
Yeah, you want to talk about the Joker movie?
Yes, I haven't seen this movie, but I have heard I've heard some amazing reviews, and I've seen some amazing reviews. All of them.
Apparently, it just came out like, what is it? Like,
today.
It goes out today.
Today.
Yeah. Apparently, the audience score from the last picture I saw was like 93% audience score.
What about the?
But it has been marred by a significant amount of controversy. Now, I feel kind of bad using that word because it has almost lost all meaning at this point.
Okay.
Controversy at this point just means against the status quo, and the status quo is usually the media.
Yeah.
So I would have to say that, at least conservatively, controversial is not how I would describe this movie. Though I did see an article where news anchors were saying it's not for children, and I thought to myself, no shit.
Sherlock, where are you? It's no shit time.
Yeah, right? Fuck me. I never would have thought that the crazed maniac who murdered people was not safe for children.
Yeah, I kind of got an impression there's a body count. I noticed, okay, so the reviews, the online reviews of like YouTubers, the majority, I'd say all of them actually, I watched about 12, all indicating, because I want to try and get a gauge for what they felt. and the majority of them seem to indicate the film was fantastic. It was so dark. It really gets into your head. And then
Well,
the written ones were all like, this encourages X, this encourages Y, and smash them together. And what do you get? Patriarchy!
patriarchy and white supremacy, which is a really
Yeah.
weird one considering the Joker's backstory. Well, at least this Joker's backstory.
Yeah, this particular
So
version.
I'm a bit of a nerd. I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to DC Batman in particular.
Yeah,
But
I'm looking at a shelf above me. I have about 3 different figurines sat on a shelf, all Batman and Joker. I even have
hell
I
yeah.
have an avatar. One of my avatars is in a Joker costume. Okay,
Oh, of course, yes. I'm
right,
fully aware. That was actually
right.
the costume that you were wearing most often when I had
Yeah,
first
and it's because
joined up.
I'm a huge fan. I really am, and I'm already interested in this version because he's already really old. So if you try to imagine let's say we take this Joker in his 40s when the film starts, in his 60s and his 70s when he's messing with Batman. That's interesting. Unless he
Hmm.
sires a younger kid or something and they end up with the same issue he has.
Well, if you bust out the Jason Todd Joker, then sure.
The Jason Todd one's an interesting one.
It is, and I think that was the one that apparently, what's his face was supposed to do during Suicide Squad, the one with the J tattooed to his cheek.
You mean Leto?
Yeah, Leto, Jared Leto.
Leto's Joker, I didn't mind it. In the context of that film, I didn't mind it.
No, I actually thought that it was a shame that he wasn't in it more.
That was the big complaint. In the extended version, which I have, he does feature in it more, but it's not enough. I would have liked him
depressing.
in the squad. Hello, Mitch. Hope you're well. Hello, Celestine as well. And Russell Burnham.
You know, was something that I believe it was Mark Hamill at, and I believe it was Jack Nicholson as well. When they played the parts of the Joker, they said that there is a considerable amount of weight that carries on you after you have performed this because of how the character exists and how you must get into the mindset of that character. Apparently, from what the people who have played the Joker say, is it has a profound effect on your mental state.
Well, you know that from Joaquin Phoenix talking about how he did a lot of criminal studies to try and understand murderers.
Oh yeah,
That
it's
was
it's
that's,
remarkable actually.
reminds me of the kind of work that Jeremy Irons puts into any character he portrays. When he did the Borgia,
Jeremy Irons is fabulous.
when he did the Borgia, he studied every last facet of their existence, and he did the same with Alfred when he was Pennyworth.
Mm-hmm. Well, Jeremy Irons is fabulous. Fabulous.
Yes,
I love him.
and Joaquin Phoenix did the same with this. I do want to see this film, but there's no cinema anywhere near me, so I have to wait for a while, I'm afraid. But I do
Yeah,
I desperately want to see
I was
this.
tempted to go see it this weekend. Actually,
Yeah,
I might still.
I do think the reviews are very fascinating. It's very interesting to see how they take a very. I'd argue in the DCU, he's one of the most popular. There's no denying it.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, I loved him. I loved Mark Hamill's portrayal in Arkham series. Honestly,
Honestly, like looking at the standard Justice League, I would say that Batman and Superman, simply by volume, have the most publicity, whether that be in their own TV shows, their adaptations, their cartoons, their cameos. I mean, Batman and Superman have basically been everywhere. And then you have, the follow-ups where you have Flash TV show, you have the Green Lantern. That was performed by Ryan Reynolds. Rip, press F in the chat for Ryan Reynolds.
yeah, I quite like the Green Lantern version at the end of Deadpool 2 when a bullet gets put through his head.
Oh, that was so good. I thought that was hilarious.
That had me in stitches. Oh,
That whole movie.
Dead Ringers, yes.
We could literally, and we should at some point, just have, instead of a political stream, we should just talk about fucking movies.
Get McGog on for that. That guy can talk all night.
Absolutely.
He can talk all night about movies.
But more to the point of the movie is that apparently the Joker can inspire incel violence.
Incel violence.
Yes.
Okay.
Apparently, the Joker character appeals so much to incels that the NYPD has been put on alert for the possibility of an incel attack similar to the Aurora Springs theater shooting. Demonetized.
Yeah. Hello, Renita Chen. Hope you're well. Hello, Keith, and straight white male. Um. Yeah. Incel violence. Right.
Right, and I was curious about this because somebody had made a very poignant comment on what was it, Facebook or Twitter, whichever. And it was so this movie appeals to incels, and they would all go to the theater to go see this movie, and the incel who is there to do a bad thing would then shoot all the incels? Question mark.
Really?
This doesn't seem to make sense. Who wrote this?
I'm struggling. Hello, New Irish Republican Brotherhood. I'm much confused by what you are telling me.
Right, because it didn't make sense. Because if the movie appeals to these people, why would they shoot up their own people?
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't. Hello,
Now,
Robert. Hope you're well. And Shiva Bear.
now, I don't think it's relevant. I think what actually is true is that it calls out the. I don't quite believe the director when he says that he made it in the spirit of anti woke culture,
Mm-hmm.
but I do believe there is some merit to parts of the movie that are talking about anti woke culture.
Okay.
I mean, you've seen the Honkler meme, I assume, yeah.
No.
Okay, so the idea that we're living in a quote unquote clown world because everything seems upside down, backwards, and like it doesn't make sense. The idea is that we steadily and steadily become more and more clownish by every waking day.
Really? Hello, Memes of
Yeah, it's more or
Destruction.
less
Hello,
more or less the
Ethalion.
idea.
Okay. Hello, Wandering Lisa, Ethalion, and the Memes of Destruction. I didn't know about that. That's
So if you
news.
ever see the clown Pepe, that's what that is.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, I'll make it a point to keep my eyes out for that.
Yeah. It's usually in the comment section. It's usually just a clown like emoji or something.
Okay.
Um,
Others have noticed the incels thing. Hello, Faith. Okay. I didn't know about that, by the way. That is actually amazing.
yeah, it's I would say old at this point, but
Incel
I
violence,
mean,
though. Come on.
yeah, in incel violence because if there's one person that you want to demonize, it's the people who are involuntary celibate because they're just not attractive to the common populace. Let's
Yeah.
just make them a demon. That totally won't backfire in the slightest.
I've just done something really precious in my head. And I think
Oh, what's
it's
that?
worth saying. When you said incel violence, I, for about 2 minutes, confused it with something else.
Oh, what did you think?
Incest violence.
Oh, that's Alabama. That's a different story altogether. That's nope.
Ah.
That's not what that is.
Oh, that's amazing. That was in my head the whole time. I'm like, wait, this sounds worse. This is horrible. Wait, incel? Incest?
Incest. Yeah, incest violence. That's
Oh.
I'm disturbed.
Yeah,
Um,
I know, but it was what I kept hearing in my head. It had me in hysterics.
fair. I don't know how to respond to that, nor how to keep going with that. You
nor
want to go
do
on to another topic?
nor do the chat, which is the best part. Um, sure, we'll talk
Jesus.
about Brexit. It's fine. Okay.
Okay.
So how many days do we have? We don't have. We have until the 31st. We have 7, 21, 3, 4, 27 days. We have 27 days until Brexit. 27 days until we are supposed to leave the European Union. By the 17th, though, in 13 days, or is it 19th? I think by the 17th, if we don't present a deal and it doesn't get through Parliament, then the Prime Minister, by law, has to ask for an extension. Now, the Prime Minister has said, he has said he will not do this. And he said he won't do it because He believes it's not right to continue paying £1 billion a month to the EU, which we would do anyway if a deal was agreed upon, because if we did, hello Davy and Michael Morris, if we did, then the issue would be that we would still be paying it in the transition period regardless, because of the divorce bill that would be agreed upon or had been agreed upon originally. The Prime Minister recently had presented to the Parliament his idea for the backstop. Now, I actually agree with what he's come up with because it is a compromise. Some have said, like Scotland, that they want the same deal offered to them. But the argument is, we're not trying to preserve peace in Scotland, we're trying to preserve peace in Ireland and Northern Ireland. Perhaps you start a war with them first and have a direct border, land border no less. Might I recommend you build a very large bridge. And the idea is that Northern Ireland would every 4 years get to vote if it wants to remain a part of the, not the EU, but within the rules and obey the rules of the EU, keeping them within that area. I don't agree with this, but obviously under circumstances I accept it to get a deal done as a compromise. But I only accept it that because the Northern Irish people get a say, or their parliament does, and that's a huge deal. Because otherwise they don't get a say at all and they have to obey things that they have no control over, and that's not fair. That is not right, and that is not democracy in the slightest. Boris Johnson, according to some court documents, has said that he will seek an extension or will send a letter to the EU asking for a delay if no deal is agreed by October 19th. These documents are according to papers that were submitted to a Scottish court, so they could just be a lie, to be fair.
Realistically, how likely is it that you'll reach a deal?
Right, so, okay, there is a thing. When he presented his proposal for the backstop, it got a surprisingly warm response from a lot of MPs that had originally voted down Theresa May's idea. Some on the Labour benches, none on the SNP. Many of his own politicians, and some that were excluded or exiled from the party, expelled or whatever they call it. Many politicians, when he did, they came forward and said that they were not going to support it, and then gave reasons that showed they hadn't read the paperwork in the first place. I read it. It was pretty clear. There were 5 key points. They weren't hard to read. It was simply about protecting and providing one thing that was denied to the Northern Irish people, and that was the choice. I do like the idea that they get to choose, and that's key. I also like the idea that Boris wants to build a bridge between the rest of the UK and Northern Ireland. I think that's a fantastic idea, actually. But we'll see how that turns out. Okay, so the Prime Minister said the UK will still be leaving on the 31st, deal or no deal, and no delay. He has said he'd rather be dead in a ditch than ask for an extension. Argument could be made that it wouldn't matter anyway, the EU can still reject an extension in the first place, which would then get the MPs undoubtedly in a tizzle, because they'd be like, we should just revoke Article 50, which would set a very dangerous precedent for any other nation that wants to leave the EU, because they can't leave the EU because of what happened to us trying to leave the EU. Talks between the two sides are aimed currently at resolving differences over the Irish border, and they are resuming on Monday, with the UK currently urging the EU, who have actually been a bit lukewarm to this. They don't actually see it as a totally bad idea to work with a decent pace, to agree a new deal. The current Benn Act, named after Hilary Benn, or as most like to call it, the Surrender Bill, requires the government to require an extension if a deal has not been agreed, because they want no deal taken off the table. I have already made my view quite clear on no deal. Taking it off the table is an incredible weakness, and I think if you're going to push that, perhaps you need to resign because you're an absolute muppet. Downing Street officials have said that the government is going to comply with the Benn Act, which only imposes a very specific, narrow duty concerning a letter from Parliament requesting a delay, which is drafted by an unknown subset of MPs and pro-EU campaigners and can be interpreted in different ways. But the government is not prevented by the Act from doing other things that cause no delay, including other communications, public and private. We people have to wait now to see how this is reconciled and all predicated on the assumption that Boris can't get a deal through Parliament in 15 days. He has 15 days to get a deal agreed upon. He's got a very, very busy time ahead of him. In black and white, the Prime Minister has accepted that he accepts something that he has never accepted before. That's the premise of this entire argument. If Parliament hasn't approved a deal, yeah, he has to send a letter. Ministers have said they'll abide the Ben Act, but also test it, which leads to some speculation that they're hunting for loopholes. Some have said that if Boris doesn't, he'll be fired by the Queen. I don't think he will be, mostly because to do so would be hilarious. And, yeah, there'd be riots, and I think the politicians would get more death threats than they could ever handle. Not because Boris is popular, but because we voted to leave. This is getting pathetic now.
Not only that, but you also voted for Boris.
Yeah, well, yes and no. He wasn't really voted to, be Prime Minister, which is why I want the UK. I wouldn't say. Well, I'm not in favour of a UK general election 2 years after the last one. I actually kind of do. That way, we will have a definitive Prime Minister, someone who has a mandate, whether they be with a minority government or a majority government. Although, based on current polls, there will be a winner, and it will be a majority government for Boris. Because nobody wants Corbyn. He doesn't hold a position. In fact, he doesn't hold a legitimate position, and that's the biggest problem. He doesn't hold a position that anyone can support because he doesn't actually have anything. It makes it very difficult to support a guy who doesn't actually have one, and now he has come up with one, but then he contradicts it a day later. Most recently, he said he supports comprehensive customs union, single market access, and then continued access to all the other things that we're a part of currently, but not being members of at the same time. To then say at the same time that we will campaign to remain. So,
Oh, my head just hurt during that.
so I'm sorry, but your party are absolute hypocrites at this point. That's not how this works. Can we grow up now, please? I'm starting to get a little bit. I understand when people like in 2015 were saying we need to replace clapping with jazz hands, or if you got triggered, you need to go to a safe space, because I actually find this stuff to be quite exhausting. Although I will say, for this channel's sake, the analytics are good right now. Honestly, we're doing quite well on growth on this channel, and views from the video. Yeah, the video views are doing well, all monetized, except for two things: vaping and Yellowhammer stream that you and I did, and Trudeau's blackface. Although last week's one, impeach Trump, monetized.
Sweet.
Although the ad revenue is pretty bad. 5-minute videos, what do you expect?
Yeah, that's fair.
The lawsuit live stream is still public, Ice Karma. It's still there. I'm going to amend it to hide details on the emails, because there's some details that are partially visible, and I'm going to be respectful about that. I will do that. But the stream will stay up. The original video that I did is... I should actually tell everyone, if I haven't already said it, the copyright claim has been revoked. We've agreed terms, and the terms are I got to re-upload it without his images. Hopefully it'll do some views, I guess. I don't expect it to do as well. But I do get to keep the other one up. I just have to remove the images as well, which I can do. In fact, I probably could blur them absolutely and then just make that one public again, but I don't know. We'll see. Not in a hurry to fix that. But back to Brexit. Many people are talking about the conversations that were had outside the Edinburgh courts about how this Prime Minister can't be trusted, with him making contradictory statements. It's like, no, he's not making contradictory statements. He's just willing to take a risk. And he's never actually outright said, yes, he'll obey the law. He said, I'll obey the law. That's what he said. Which they think means he won't. Hello, Gulf City Synthesizer. And I didn't say hello already. Hello, Renovatio, Jim Bob, and properly, Ice Karma. Hope you're well. But yes, he didn't actually say yes, which is what he wanted. Instead, he said, I'd obey the law, which apparently means there's a loophole somewhere, which I actually don't understand. Do you see a loophole there somewhere? Unless they're referring to, this isn't a real law, the one that they passed, the Ben Act, and that he'll obey the law elsewhere, which is where they think there might be a gap. If there is a gap, though, I'm very confused because his current MPs can't find a hole in it.
Or perhaps a law that has not been tested in the courts that has a potential
Yeah.
loophole that has not been exploited.
That is an option, actually. And I know the Supreme Court can't be trusted since they're essentially... The Supreme Court, when I looked at it, right, every member on that Supreme Court, all the lords and ladies on it, they are all ardent Remainers, right? I know this because I looked into debates and I've seen them, right? And on top of that, the majority of them had monetary vested interests in the EU. Like there was never...
that's not surprising to me.
Boris Johnson had no chance of beating them on prorogation. It's probably why he didn't bother submitting a witness, because there was no point. There was no point submitting anything against a group of people who you knew were already going to be stacked against you.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, it's... I found that to be quite amusing. Yes, I'm done with it. Oh, dear. I've still got that stupid article open about what's his name, sexy vegan. Sending a letter requesting extension, then send a second letter revoking it. Now that's an option. That's an opportunity. Sorry, that's actually a good point. He could do that. He could do that. But then also, there is the argument. They could say no. The EU could say no. They're all building us on the assumption that they'll say yes, but the EU might say no. If they say no, what do the UK politicians do then? Well, the answer is simple. They're going to then ask for another referendum. Hello, loyal opposition. Hope you're well. Thank you for the G code or the 3D model of the moist badges. I'm very, very grateful. I think that they'll probably either try to call for another referendum, or within the space of a week, which is impossible, or they'll ask for revocation of Article 50 because their backs are against the wall. And, of course, we must protect jobs for no deal, even forgetting that just because we leave without a deal doesn't mean we can't quickly negotiate a new deal. It's protect, yes. And I think that to be quite pathetic. Yeah, I heard about the Baroness Hale stuff. It's kind of pathetic at this point, White. I actually find it quite sad. I'd expect more from them, but at the same time, what can you expect from a bunch of retards? They are the very definition of privilege, and I have no time for any of them. But there they are, making a mockery of the legal system. I'm intrigued to see how to... And another thing about I don't care for Brexit right now is the boogeyman of the whole thing. The boogeyman that gets brought up in Parliament. Do you know what the boogeyman is, Trups?
Oh, go ahead, tell me. Is it racism?
No, the boogeyman is a person. Because if we leave, we're going to have to deal with them. And that's bad.
See, I grew up in a time of racism could be an idea, like, terror.
Oh, okay. Well, I was referring to trading with Trump.
Oh, no!
That's bad. Because we might get chlorinated chicken.
But you also might get money.
That's what I think.
Instead of spending money.
Yeah, that's my view is... I don't care as long as they obey basic human rights laws and treat their citizens right. I don't care.
So not Saudi Arabia,
basically, and yet we sell weapons to them. I'm sorry.
Us too.
Yeah. Please, yes, smash the like button. I'd greatly appreciate it. I think it's quite sad that Corbyn will stand up in Parliament and declare Trump the boogeyman. That Boris is trying to get into his back pocket to make deals with Trump as if Trump is bad. I'm sorry, but a free trade deal... Right, so there's two things about this I find to be hugely advantageous to both sides. The first to our side would be a deal with our greatest ally. That is a huge deal. That deal...
Who happens to be in the middle of an economic boom.
Right? Although I have heard apparently you're about to crash any second now, which I've been hearing for the last 3 years.
2 years?
Oh, nearly 3 at this point. It's getting close.
Yeah,
right, so... That's fair, Eden. You don't have to make a deal with him. But I think, for the sake of the deals on offer, I would take it because we know it's a good deal. And that's the thing with the EU. The deal isn't a good deal at all, but we're meant to accept it as if it is a good deal. And the second thing that benefits other people will be the benefit to Trump, because the US couldn't negotiate any trade deal with us as long as we're a member of the EU. The EU can't negotiate a single damn trade deal with the US because they've never been able to agree terms.
Yeah, and
Never.
if any fucking like conglomeration of nations has shown us anything, it's that they're all kowtowing leftist bitches.
I have nothing against those that are on the
Who
left, by the way. I should be clear, but there are a specific type of people on the left that are quite intolerable at this point.
Yeah, well, that's the problem. If you identify as left at this point, you're probably like either you're trying to hold on to whatever you previously were, or you're alongside the progressives. And at this point,
Yeah.
progressives are the bad guy.
Yeah. I also want to address, Eden, you mentioned a drop in food quality. That's alleged. It's not proven. And the UK actually have standards that are higher than the EU's. We would expect the US to obey those standards if they wanted to trade food with us. But I know for a fact food is not the highest priority. I believe manufacturing is with the US. I know this from meetings that John Bolton had with number 10, as did Mike Pence. Manufacturing was number 1 because, yeah, we make good stuff. I do believe, and if the UK negotiated a deal with the US, the EU, before renegotiating a deal with the EU, right, then I think there's a possibility the EU would want to would have to make concessions to get a better deal with us because of what we got.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm thinking. Like, could you imagine what the implications would be for the EU? Let's say they put sanctions on, they go through the customs procedure for all the shit. I'm still waiting for a fucking package from the UK, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah.
Could you imagine what it would be like for the EU to suddenly look at the UK and go, wow, look at them. They don't have to go through these bullshit extra customs clearances and extra customs taxes. Wow, they are able to move product like nobody's business. Like, this is so profitable for them.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we do that? Well, because we're stingy little dickheads who want to like rape everybody who wants to trade with you for all they've got.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but I use that word specifically because they're ruthless in how they take money from people.
So there are two things I want to quickly address. First, Ithalian, yes, I'd very much like alcohol to be shipped from the US to here. Second, food is your number one Eden, your food is number one priority. Understandable. I quite like food too. However, the countries that we would get food from that are of the highest priority and want food from us actually come from Asia, which would include China, who we can't currently export food to. And that would also, I believe, include India and Pakistan. We're not doing trade deals with them because we can't. But they are, and it's known to be because their foreign ministers have met with our ministers, they are top priority. They would have to, and we actually have one of the highest food standards in the world. We have it higher than the EU as well. So I think it's worth pointing, and I know that sounds like a weird flex, but it's very important. I agree, but the deal wouldn't be for food with the US. Although I'm sure we would get some food from the US anyway, because seriously, if I want diabetes, I know where I'm getting it from. Okay, I'm getting it from like
Hell yeah! You think you have a choice? We bring it to you.
Yeah, I just take my
free of charge. We'll bring it to you.
I'll take my Twinkie in the vein.
Immediately.
Twinkies are weird.
Fucking mainline it, bro.
Twinkies confuse me. They really do. They taste like nothing. I had one. Brother-in-law had one, and we're both like, what is this?
No one knows,
but
they're good.
I did feel like I had a sugar crash about 5 minutes afterwards.
I've never had sugar crashes.
I have once before when I was at uni and I made butterbeer with some friends.
Ooh,
made it ourselves from an internet recipe, and it was loaded with sugar. And yes. I remember we did the trick or treating, and the kids came around. We gave them sweets, and about half an hour later, I was on the floor. Face down, backside in the air, and I woke up with a very sore.
Diabetic shock.
Yeah, I woke up with a very sore backside because they'd gotten a cricket bat and decided Let's have some fun.
What a strange college life you've had. Like last week, we discussed how you have a picture of some naked dudes, and now you're getting like reamed in the ass by something. I don't know.
It was smacked pretty hard. It hurt, but it was funny. Hello, Carlos. Hope you're well, mate. Yeah. So
you wanna talk about Trump impeachment?
Oh, is he getting? Oh, this is why, by the way, if anyone's wondering, we've been calling us politicians clowning about because this all reeks of just. So when's Trump getting impeached?
I fucking don't know, but the bigger question is why. So apparently, because of Trump's request to the Ukraine to investigate the potential corruption of former Vice President Biden and his son Hunter in a let's just call it a shady business deal.
Yeah.
Apparently, that's an impeachable offense. But it got better because apparently Trump had also said that if China wanted to, they could also investigate it. Now, I don't know if you remember, but during the campaign trail, Trump really didn't like China.
No, you mentioned China.
And, he made that very, very clear.
China.
So I'm trying to figure out how they think that China and the U.S. through Trump are good buddies, especially considering we're in the midst of a trade war in which we have basically, we have basically taxed the shit out of any import coming from China.
So how is this meant to be some kind of decoy to take your attention away from how close? What's the guy's name that runs China? Ming, Zing, Ling, Ping, Ding.
Sure, whatever. The president who is currently oppressing his people with bullets.
I can't remember the guy's name. It felt like
I couldn't care less.
Just call him Mao.
Yeah, that's fine. But that was the biggest thing. Trump's argument to people who said like, "Oh, are you inspiring election interference?" No. So, okay. Once upon a time, in the United States of America,
story time.
We had a president named Teddy Roosevelt, who was a staunch anti-monopoly president.
Teddy?
Yeah, Teddy. He was played by Robin Williams in Night Museum.
I remember that film as well. I remember.
I know that guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
As it turns out, I love the chat right now who are explaining.
Xi Jinping. Thank you. I knew it was Ping.
I
knew
prefer
it as well.
the We Too Low Holy Fook. Have you ever seen that fucking video?
No.
Oh, I have to show you this.
That's so bad. That's so bad though. It feels like you're like it's like right on the edge.
The Chinese airline crash, and some asshole basically said, some person basically was telling them that the pilot's name was We Too Low Holy.
Oh, that feels a bit. Oh no!
No, it's very racist, but they didn't realize it was so...
That is so bad. That's so bad.
It's hilarious, though. Racist jokes are funny, folks. Yes, Prospero, indeed, the greatest troll ever.
That is...
right up there. Naruto
Hang on, no. I need to see that. I need to see it. What's it called?
Just go up to the Chinese airline crash news report.
I've gone with We Too Low news report.
Yeah.
Hang on. I've got the video. Give me a sec.
Go up to the Chinese...
hang on. Sorry, that's playing back. Sorry, I had the live dashboard open. Let's open that. Open a window. Holy Fook. Let's put that there. Done. Right. Drag that there. I think this is it.
Now back out here live, the goal is to get the runway back open late Sunday with about 100 flights a day canceled because of this runway closure. The reopening can't come
I'm
soon
surprised
enough.
you've never
Live
seen
here at
this.
SFO, Claudine Wong, KTVU, Channel 2 News.
All right, thank you, Claudine. We have new information out this noontime concerning one of the teenagers who died in that crash landing. San Francisco police are now confirming 16-year-old Ye Meng Yuan was hit by a fire
Wait,
truck.
this is the right
Police
one?
say she was on the ground and covered in the foam crews had sprayed to douse
The title
fire
says
aboard
holy
the
fuck.
plane. Coroner is still trying to determine the cause of death and whether she was already dead when the truck hit her.
Hold on, I'm
We have
checking.
new
Ah, here we go. It's here. It's here.
information now. Also on the plane crash, KTVU is just learning the names of the 4 pilots who were on board the flight. They are Captain Sum Ting Wong, Wee Chu Wong, Ho Lee Fook, and Bang Ding Ao. And the NTSB has confirmed these are the names of the pilots on board Flight 214 when it crashed.
No, I'm stopping.
I'm so happy that you're laughing this hard.
Such a bad troll. I can't believe they read that.
Oh my god, that's old too.
Oh, I love that. I didn't know it. I didn't know. That's amazing.
Beautiful. I'm so happy. I could bring you memes
Oh.
during these streams.
Yeah, my favorite old memes are the lolcat still, but that's just amazing.
I'm glad you enjoyed that as much as I did.
That was quality. So
What
Trump's
the fuck was I talking about though?
Trump getting impeached.
China.
Yeah, Trump
Yeah.
getting impeached and all that. Yeah.
So yeah. Apparently Trump is buddy with Xi Jinping, which now I understand how we got here.
Yeah.
Thanks to the chat for telling me that. by the
Yes,
way.
that really helps.
Yeah, it really does. Mao would have been appropriate though. So apparently, the Washington Post has done a live update stream, which I believe I had sent to you. I don't know if it's in the chat.
I couldn't
in the description or
I
anything
couldn't
like that.
actually open it because I already opened the China thing. Washington Post wouldn't let
That's
me.
fine. No worries.
Yeah.
Long story short is they're doing a live. They're doing a live thing on all things impeachment for Trump.
Oh right.
Apparently.
I saw Nancy Pelosi did a statement with some interviews recently talking about the impeachment inquiry. It's kind of rubbish.
Poor Nancy Pelosi, forced to take a side.
She was really put on the spot. I felt kind of bad for her a little bit.
So hard to not do that.
Yeah, she was screwed.
And we talked about this last week. Nancy Pelosi tried to ride the middle so damn hard, like a goddamn stripper, but she couldn't hang on.
No, she's in a very difficult position right now. I don't feel sorry for her because she's a bit of a dick. But she's been put. I mean, the fact she's trying to take the middle ground is actually somewhat semi-admirable.
Yeah, absolutely.
But she's speaking. She's speaking now. She has to. She has to be that person.
Yeah, well, exactly. She has to be the Speaker of the House, which arguably there has to be some kind of middle ground in this. In fact, one of my friends actually posted this on Facebook. It was it was a graphic showing the Congress over the last 100 years and who they most often agreed with, and the aisles they would reach across essentially. And what you ended up seeing was that in early 1900s and in late 1800s, you saw a lot of like reaching across the aisle, kind of working together. But in the mid 90s, you started to see major political divides, like strictly based on party. And at this point, there's like there's absolutely no one who reaches across the aisle anymore, except for maybe Ted Cruz. And what's his face from Texas, one eye. What's his goddamn name?
Oh, Crenshaw.
Crenshaw. Thank you. I kept wanting to say Crawford.
By the way, that was a lucky guess.
No, that was great. That was a great job, Dan Crenshaw. But so when it comes to what this impeachment inquiry is currently basically about, is one of the other things that Trump had said, in which he wishes to interview the whistleblower. Now, I remember we had discussed last week about whistleblower laws and how either you or I didn't really know too much about it, and I still don't. I didn't really care enough to look it up. But provided the information is still the same, where he did not gain that knowledge through personal experience, through personal work experience, that kind of thing, he is not technically a whistleblower by law.
Okay.
So Trump's opinion that he wants to interview said person kind of falls into place with one of our most important rights, which is the right to face your accuser, which is enumerated in our Bill of Rights. Now, this is where, before the stream, Meg and I had talked where we could discuss the practical use of law versus the implied use of law, or the ideal use of law.
Yeah.
Where, yes, theoretically, we would all want to be innocent until proven guilty. However, on a report, a police officer in the United States is allowed to arrest a person on suspicion of domestic abuse because someone said so. Now, that person then has to be arrested, processed, and has to post bail, all while under the impression that ideally this person is innocent, despite maybe having to pay $15,000 bail.
Yeah.
Or worse, not paying it and showing up in cuffs.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how your country handles such things, but I know that when somebody had brought that up during Nick Rekida's live stream last night, that was a very, very good point, and I wanted to hear your opinion on it.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, sorry, I went on a bit of a monologue there.
I'm not entirely sure. I'm really not. Whistleblowing still absolutely baffles me. I can't believe there are laws that exist and a protocol for it.
Really?
Well, I don't understand why the protocol exists to begin with.
Okay.
I was more curious.
How do you figure?
Well, no. In the context of, like, okay, so when, let's say, Snowden did his little thing, although many said he's not a whistleblower, is he? He's
No, because technically he didn't gain his information.
Yeah, no, sorry, I'm getting it wrong. I'll be honest. The whole whistleblower thing just confuses me. I'm not.
That's fair. And it confuses a lot of people because the laws are so specific on what a whistleblower is.
Yeah, the criteria. I remember somebody in the chat told us about that last week, and I thought that was the weird. That was
I believe it was
thing.
Prospero, because Prospero is very well learned on these things.
Possibly. Well, not the learning part. I mean, it may have been her that said it. I just don't. I'm kidding. I'm not being a dick on purpose. Oh, Shift's office lied, did they? Imagine my shock.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though, right? So Schiff lying about meeting with the whistleblower means that, one, Schiff knows the individual. Snowden is not in Russia, Stallion. I believe he's in South America somewhere. Though, you know what? I shouldn't say that with such definitive attitude. I don't know.
Let's have a look. Where is Snowden?
You know, I bet the CIA is looking for that information too.
Residence says Moscow still. What country is he in?
Moscow?
It says Moscow.
Interesting.
But it might be.
Fair enough.
We don't know. Can't be sure. Here's a Twitter. Let's find out what that geo thing on that is. Oh, it's not there.
But basically, long story short, Congress has been forced to put their money where their mouth is when it comes to impeaching Trump. And now they're forced to actually stand with a true idea, so that they may be put on record as having voted for this. And Lindsey Graham made a tweet earlier today that was so beautifully presented, where it was, no, the Democrats should all get out from behind Nancy Pelosi on this impeachment thing. They should all stand up and vote impeachment, so that history, their constituents, and the country can vote them as they see fit. Which is if that is a damning statement to any politician, you're doing it wrong.
Just as a point of interest, he has 4.1 million followers, Snowden does. He follows one person, the NSA.
That's hilarious.
He literally follows just one, and it is them. That's just... Oh,
I feel like that's just like... that's intended.
Oh, it's glorious. I love it. Oh, it's hard not to laugh at that one.
Well played, Ed.
Amazing.
But yeah, actually, Patriarch mentions whistleblower laws were initially meant to protect people outing companies for doing shady shit. That's true. When it comes to a government standpoint, though, whistleblower laws are a little bit more specific. Because if you're whistleblowing on your government, as the Democrats would like to say, a potentially tyrannical government, there may be some implications based on how our Constitution is worded that means that we might have to take up arms.
Mm-hmm.
That one's a little bit dicey. You gotta be careful with that word in there.
Yeah.
Because if the whistleblower is a true whistleblower, as per the government standards, and is saying that, the government is subverting the democratic will of the people, much like is happening in the United Kingdom, then that you may see people, dusting off their muskets, as the Second Amendment wills us, and their cannons, rolling them out of the garage.
Mm-hmm. Give it time.
Because
you'll march again.
We're not. Well, it's mostly a meme against the fucking idea that we're not supposed to have modern firearms to fight against our modern armies. It's kind of bullshit. I think it's kind of full of it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
But that's a bit of a tangent and not really related.
I think it's a great way to end the show.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to shill, Chops, before we finish?
No, I've got nothing. I'm still working overtime for the next 20 days.
Right, well, I'll make a video for you for your channel tomorrow.
Thanks.
You're welcome, mate. So, go to his channel. There will be a new video on it at some point in the very near future. I have re-uploaded my video on sexy vegan. Please go on to my main channel and check it out if you can or want to. Just smash the like button. I'd appreciate it.
Smash.
Yeah, I'm also going to edit the stream I did with Cog earlier. He very kindly he hosted it with my stream key, which led to an error earlier where Cog accidentally went live on my channel again. I've deleted that. It was like 20 seconds of him going, what?
Good.
Yeah,
Good,
yeah.
Cog, you fucking win.
Yeah, so I'll edit the stream to blur out some of the email details. I think you can do that in YouTube Editor, so I need to learn how to do it. And I'll edit the old video as well. Then I can make the old video public again, really, so I might just do that. We'll see. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you guys soon. Say goodnight, Trups.
Good night, Trups.
Good night, Trups.